What is going on, everybody, and welcome back once again. My name is Jordan, also known as J-Monster. Thank you for joining me for the third Age Reforged replay battle. This one is a 4 versus 4 on DOL GULDUR, and it is intense, aggressive, and absolutely awesome, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Alright, so let's take a brief look at the army compositions, then we can jump right into the replay. I do warn you ahead of time, some of the army comps get a little bit weird, and that is because the attackers especially have basically unlimited funds to do with as they will. That might be like a fun little what-if scenario. Anyway, I digress. So the first defending army is the army of the Kingdom of Rohan, being commanded by Pope Travidak. He's got, it's really hard to tell exactly what he has, but I know that he has some Rittermark skirmishers. He's got some Riders of Rohan, some Royal Lords, some Royal Guard, some Riders of the Fold, and a unit or two of Shield Maidens. Actually, here they are, right here. They're very lovely, they're very deadly Shield Maidens. He's also got one unit of, I think, dismounted Royal Guard. It's his only infantry unit, where everything else is cavalry, so things are going to get pretty nuts here. The second defending army is the army of the Kingdom of Arnor, being commanded by Dino Man 9877. It's pretty standard Arnor fare. He's got some Arnored pikemen right here, some Dunedain Wardens, a unit of Dunedain Bodyguard, a couple units of dismounted Dunedain Knights, one here, one on the other side, being backed up by 2 units of Battle-Ready Dunedain, again, similar deployment to the Dunedain Knights. He's also got some Steel Bowmen, who I think are hanging out, yeah, here they are, alongside some Dunedain Rangers as well. So the third defending army is the army of the Dwarves, being commanded by Bobbington. He's brought some Ironfoot Guard, some Khazad-dûm Reclaimers, one here, one on the other southern gate, a Catapult, of course, some Miners, one unit of Miners, which are obviously a budget pick to use some of his leftover Florins. He's also got a few units of Ironfoot Pikemen and a unit of Ironfoot Hammer Guard. Up here above the gatehouse, to round it all off, he's got one unit of Khazad Orc Hunters, and over in the town center, he's got some Mithril Guard. Yes, okay, Mithril Guard / Ballad Guard, whatever you guys prefer. Some Sons of the Fallen, some Gods of Khazad-dûm, and one unit of Sons of Durin, who are really powerful shock infantry. Might see limited use though in the choke points inside of the city. Oh yeah, and I forgot about this. Arnor also has a catapult. But moving down here, we have the fourth and final defending army, which is the army of the Sylvan Elves of the Woodland Realm, being commanded by yours truly. I've got 2 units of Hiri Lang hanging out right here alongside the Dwarven Pikemen, just like in the Hobbit movie, in fact. A couple units of Hurin Ek, 2 units of Sindar Bladesmen, a couple units of Royal Guard, one here, one over on the other side, 1 unit of Elder Palace Guard. There's way too many Elder units, they all get kind of jumbled in my head. I've also got a couple units of Forest Wardens, who are hanging out down here at the gatehouse, and a couple units of Hiri Beng, I believe, are the bow unit, and they're kind of lost in the nightmare that is this. In addition to all of that, to round off the whole force, I've got 4 units of Woodland Warriors, and a catapult, of course, to defend the final choke point up here in the town center. Alright, so that's it for the defenders. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at the attacking army. Over here at the western gate, being led by Saruman and his 2 twin brothers, we have the army of Isengard, being commanded by Starling CS Money, and this is a terrifying force. If you ever see this running across the plains at you, do yourself a favor and just run the other direction, because it's not worth it. He's got 3 to 4 units of Berserkers, 3 Sarumans, 3 units of Nazgai, a couple units of Uruk-hai crossbows, 1 unit of Trolls of the White Hands, and 2 or 3 units, I believe, of a mine, which I'm sure Starling is going to try and use to batter down our walls and really just make our lives miserable. He's also got a couple units of Uruk bombers, a catapult, and I'm pretty sure that's the entirety of his force. It's mostly just Berserkers and like utility units. Moving over here, we have the army of the Kingdom of Harad, being commanded by Von Mountain. And he's brought a ton of skirmishers. This is an absolute nightmarish force to have to deal with as the defenders in a siege. You see some Muhat tribesmen right here. I think they're hiding, but there is some Corsair Blackguard around here to the tune of about 3 to 4 units. He's also got 3 or 4 units of Abrazanim Nardu-Bawib, a couple units of Trollmen, and 1 unit of Narunara Royal Guard, and a single unit of Narunara Royal Archers, which is where the Haradrim General is hanging out. Pretty sure that's the entirety of his force. He mostly brought skirmishers, and Starling mostly brought utility. So a very interesting balance of forces here. Over here we have the army of the Orcs of Gundabad, being commanded by Recrius. And look at this! Look at these trolls! He's got 1 unit of Trolls of Gundabad, 1 Snow Troll, 1 Mountain Troll, some Berserkers, some Guardians of Khazad-dûm, 3 to 4 units of Gundabad Guard, a catapult, of course, some Witchers, which is very scary. You can't see them, but there is some Shadow Guard hanging out around here somewheres. A unit of Witchrealm Hammer Guard, which is the Orcs of Gundabad's super elite offensive unit. Do not want to mess with these guys. They will mess up just about anything. Elven Infantry, Dwarves, they don't care. They will kill it. He's also got a unit of Witchrealm Blackguard, a couple units of Witchrealm Scourge Raiders, 1 unit of Bolg Champions, and 1 unit of Mounted Witchrealm Inquisitors, which I believe is where Bolg is hanging out. Yeah, there he is. Or sorry, Azog, that's the one. A couple units of Guardians of Khazad-dûm, you can see them right there, and that's basically it for the Gundabad forces. Let's move on now to the fourth and final attacking army, which is not Starling. It is the forces of Mordor. Look at this. 15 trolls, 3 units of Olokai, a huge number. Look at this. Sauron has emptied the Black Land of his Númenórean warriors, and they have all come to the Citadel of Dol Guldur to take it from the Free People. So there's a ton of Temple Inquisitors here. I believe he's got no, he's just got 1 Mordor catapult, troll catapult that is. A unit of Nazgul, which I think is where his general is hanging out. And 3 to 4 units of Temple Guard alongside a couple units of Sauron's Will. So a very intimidating attacking force, very, very hardy, a lot of hit points to go around in these armies. But that's it for the army composition. Let's go ahead and let's start the battle. And it's going to get started with a bang. Look at this. Hundreds upon hundreds of warriors now pouring over this ridge, coming down to silence the army of Isengard. The Isengarders definitely pose the biggest threat to the defenders in this battle because of those mines. The way that the mines work in this game is that they will blow up the... Let's say he used them on the gatehouse. Not only will they blow up the wall, but they'll blow up everything in a huge radius around them, reaching sometimes even to the town square. So this block of defending infantry right here could find themselves exploded if one of those mines manages to go off. So definitely I think the defenders are choosing their targets wisely by going after Starling first thing. Let's go ahead and let's fast forward just a little bit. You can see some of the Woodland Warriors now pouring out, trying to support this infantry charge. There's 2 units here, 2 units on the other side moving in to go for this mine unit. Unfortunately, they're going to take a Uruk bomber unit to the face, and 50 or so units, 50 strong unit of Woodland Warriors is going to rout first thing, leaving their poor compatriots over here to fend for themselves. You dirty, dirty traitors. There they are. Hopefully they'll reform soon enough. Over here, alongside the Rohirrim, things are going a lot better. The Woodland Warriors have managed to get themselves stuck in, silencing one of the mine units, which is extremely important for the defenders. Over here, look at this, a massive charge coming in from the Rohirrim, looking to run down some of these crossbows and some of these lightly armored berserkers. The berserkers do not have a lot of armor, and they're extremely vulnerable to cav charges. So this is a really nice job here on the part of the Rohirrim player, trying to take down some of these important elite units and collapse this Isengard left flank. But I think perhaps they are getting a little bit ahead of themselves, a little bit too bunched up, trying to run through these guys instead of cycling charges in and out, especially with these Nazgai now in the fray alongside the 3 Sarumans. Not a fight you want to stick around in for a very long time if you can help it. Isengard really having a lot of difficulties right here, getting ganged up on by 2 of the defending players. Really unfortunate for Starling, but he is definitely the most dangerous player in terms of his army composition. Over here, though, alongside the dwarves, we can see, I think there's a little bit of a sally that's going to be coming out very shortly from the dwarves. Recrius moving up his Guardians of Karn Doom, looking to engage the walls here and begin to put some pressure on the defending forces. Some of the Hammer Guard, I think they were out a little bit earlier because they're down a few troops. But look at this, a massive charge into the front of these Guardians of Karn Doom, taking down so many of them. A really devastating charge here. And this is a very elite unit, too, that Recrius is going to want on the wall. So that's a little bit of a setback, I think, for the Gundam player. Not devastating, but certainly unfortunate. The Gundam player now moving in his Bolg's champions alongside his Witch Realm Blackguard, trying to counter the menace posed by these Ironfoot Hammer Guard. They may be few in number, but they are extremely deadly. So even with these massive numbers arrayed against them, they could still do a little bit of damage to these extremely elite cavalry units for Recrius. Moving back over here, going to take a look at the Isengard fight. Look at this. It seems that Rohan's really having a lot of trouble. He tried to push through here on this left flank, overwhelm them, and get in amongst the more important units, the squishier units of Isengard, but he was just shut down, I think, by the trolls, by the Nazgai, and by the berserkers as well. So really devastating loss here for Rohan. The defenders now down 11% of their forces, which is very, very devastating for them. Most of the Woodland Warriors now have been repulsed. The berserkers just finishing off what remains of them, cleaning up those units. But pretty much nothing remains of the Woodland Warriors. Over here we got the Mountain Shield Maidens in close combat against some Uruk-hai bodyguards and these berserkers. That's really unfortunate. You probably don't want to have these guys in combat with these anti-cav units for too long, because they have a lot of HP, so they can stick around for an extremely long time. And yeah, of course they have their cavalry bonus, which means that they will devastate your cavalry units. The Rohirrim skirmishers still putting up a fight, though. The Isengarders not really able to move out right now. I think it's around this point that Starling actually has a bit of a problem with his game and crashes out. So the Isengarders here have taken a lot of casualties, but so has Rohan in return, and it ends up just being a futile gesture because Isengard is no longer going to be a threat in this battle. Over here, though, look at this. The forces of Gundabad have moved in force, taking on the dwarves and elves, trying to hold down this this eastern gatehouse together. There's just so many trolls here that are smashing down these defenses. But it looks like some of them are slowly beginning to fall. So the combined efforts of dwarves and elves beginning to bear a little bit of fruit. They're going to start to push these guys back, I think, towards the gatehouse. Back here you can see a really nice tier defense on the part of the defending players. Got a catapult up here, some Khazad Orc Hunters, a couple units Khazad Orc Hunters lining up alongside some skirmishers. And the elves, I think, are going to start to move their Hearing Experiment over to this area and start to lock it down. Over on this side, though, you can see Harad beginning to open up on the defending fortifications. Looks like he might be trying... Oh, yes. He's going for these poor Dunedain Rangers. But these guys are in more danger than they realize. Because of their positioning, there is no way down from this wall. So if Von Mountain manages to sever this before the elves and the Kingdom of Warnor can get their troops off of the walls, they will lose all of these very important, very elite units. And that is not a setback that I think that the defenders really want to have at this point. Over here, it looks like Rohan has taken heavy casualties now, beginning to pull back, taken so many losses amongst his cavalrymen. These royal lords trying to take down some of these trolls with the White Hand. I think Starling is still in the game at this point, but it's not going to be too much longer, I think, before Isengard is no longer a threat. Yeah, the trolls now have lost a lot of steam, but Mordor has now come in to support his Gundabad ally, and there's a huge number of shock troops now pouring through this eastern gatehouse. Look at this. So many Sauron's Will, so many Hammerguard and Scourge Raiders. This is a lot of AP damage being thrown at the dwarves and the elves, and I don't think that they have the numbers really to stand up for it for too much longer. Up here, Gundabad now has reached the walls and is beginning to try and take them from the dismounted Dunedain Knights, but they are not giving any ground to these attackers. Look at them, they're slowly beginning to push back these Guardians of Karn Dûm. A very even fight up here, though it says that it is in favor of the dismounted Dunedain Knights, and that would not surprise me. It's a very powerful, very elite unit. Oh no, Von Mountain has... This is the disaster that we were worried about earlier. So this wall piece now has crumbled to the point where there is no way down for those troops. So the Elder Palace Guard, who we know are so powerful and can do so much work if they are managed to be preserved in the battle, have now fallen alongside 2 units of Dunedain Rangers. So that's a huge loss for the defenders. Very big micro mistake there, not paying attention. I know on my part, I was looking at this and I was like, he's not blowing up the wall that my troops are on. I'm sure it'll be fine. No, indeed. And now all of my my most elite unit is now dead alongside a huge number of archers. Over here, though, it looks like Gundabad is slowly beginning to push their way in. This massive influx of infantry really starting to give them the oomph that they need to push through these elite Dwarven and Elven units. Oh, goodness. Dwarven Catapult reaping a terrible toll among friend and foe alike. A huge number of those pikemen alongside the Hiri Lang have now fallen. Although I think he managed to get a nice shot there. Yeah, now one of the wall pieces crumbling, so Harad is going to be able to get in. But a huge number of friendly troops now have fallen in battle, thanks to the carelessness of the catapult crew. Over here, it looks like Rohan is now using some of his remaining cavalry to go after the Haradrim. Nice. Looks like he's charging downhill against the Narnar Royal Archers, or the Royal Guard, rather. Possibly not the best engagement for those troops. Those Riders of the Fold are pretty much going to rout immediately. But down here, look at this. Rohan has managed to do something extremely important. He is in amongst... Oh yeah, there's some Hashari Shadows here as well. A lot of hidden troops. But Rohan has managed to get down here alongside his Shield Maidens and crash into a lot of the very vulnerable units of Harad, including his catapult. This catapult is now ineffective. That is a big loss for the Haradrim. Although thankfully he managed to break down at least one section of wall before moving in. But this is going to be a boon for the attackers, because if Harad was able to just blow up multiple pieces of wall here, he'd be able to infiltrate the fortress at multiple points and outflank this very vulnerable defending block here. These guys, a recharge from behind would silence this catapult and do a lot of damage to the skirmishers and the spearmen here. Oh wow, look at this. Oh, so much friendly fire. Mostly friendly fire. A huge number of the Ironfoot Guard now paying the ultimate price for that mishap on the part of the Dwarven player. It's just so unfortunate. And now Bobbington is beginning to pull back his Ironfoot Guard, which is going to leave the pikemen and the Hiri Lang here high and dry, but it does open these guys a little bit further to some easier catapult volleys, which hopefully won't result in the deaths of many of the defending players. But look at this. Absolute bedlam breaking out at this eastern gate. Oh, very close. Very close goal. Oh, a nice catapult hit there, taking down some of the Hammer Guard, which is absolutely devastating for the Gundabad player. He wants to try and keep those guys around. He's going to have to push through a lot more heavy infantry from this point forward. Yeah, absolute chaos here. You can see a nice catapult shot. It looks like it took out a lot of the Temple Inquisitors, which is a big loss for Mordor. But these guys are all in a very, very precarious position. Their flanks are exposed. They are very heavily armored units, but I think under the withering arrow fire that we're seeing coming in here from 2 units of Royal Guard alongside some Dunedain Steel Bowmen who are now moving themselves into position. One of the surviving units of Dunedain Rangers down to a mere 6, also trying to avenge the fall of their comrades, firing into the exposed flank of those Guardians of Karn Doom, Temple Inquisitors, and Blackguard. This is really where the main fight is going to take place for a very long time. Now that Isengard is out of the battle, the Dwarven Pikemen here, alongside what remains of the Hiri Lang, the remnants of those proud Elven swordsmen, beginning to actually push back the Mordor players and the Mordor and Gundabad players, and they are now a little bit exposed here. They're being pushed on 2 sides now by these attacking infantry, so they are going to have to move in some reinforcements, and indeed they are. Looks like a unit of Temple Inquisitors now charging into battle, looking to get a nice flank charge here. That is going to be absolutely devastating. As the last of the Saurons will begin to fall, the Temple Inquisitors come in to take their place, and that's going to be, I think, decisive in terms of this battle for the Gatehouse. Oh man, up here, look at this. That catapult is just doing so much work against these very expensive Mordor forces. Really a desperate situation up here for the Mordor and Gundabad warriors, who are trying to desperately push their way through these Arthedain men-at-arms. I think they've managed to beat down the Dunedain Knights, but they still have more on our infantry to have to contend with. And these guys don't have to kill them. All they have to do is hold them in place long enough for the missile troops and that catapult to kill them all. It would be an extremely, almost unrecoverable loss for the Gundabad and Mordor players if they lose a ton of forces up here on this gatehouse. Looks like a huge fight now developing outside of the walls. The Harad player moving in some of his javelins to try and harass the defending positions. He's got this gatehouse down now, and there's a very compact Arnor pike line inside there, and you really don't want to let these guys sit in range of javelins for too long, because they will take extreme casualties and be combat ineffective. The Sylvan Elves and the Arnor player now being very aggressive, fighting outside the walls, trying to silence these Corsair Blackguards, not wanting to let them fire volleys into the rear of this defending position. So they're now moving out, taking these guys on in close combat. Not an easy task. The Corsair Blackguard do have really nice melee stats as well, in addition to their very powerful Javelin AP bonus. So not going to be a unit of pushovers. Wow, excuse me. They're not going to be any pushovers by any means. They're going to be able to hold their own against these Force Wardens for quite some time. Harad still moving up the rest of his army, and look at this, yet more javelins, and there's some Trollmen down here to back them up as well. He's moving in another unit of Corsair Blackguard. Really nice micro here on the part of Von Mountain, using his javelins, I think, to great effect, keeping the defenders busy in all kinds of places. We don't want to let him get these Corsair Blackguard into position and begin to fire a whole bunch of volleys into our units. So the Sylvan Elf player now moving some of his Force Wardens in there to try and silence these guys and kill as many of them as possible. So a lot of his Corsair Blackguard are actually dead at this point. Fighting hard against these Force Wardens is beginning to take a toll on them. Some Corsair Blackguards here now taking a ton of damage, down to a mere 42. But he has yet more. Look at this. Trying to move in some more Corsair Blackguards. He's kind of got the defending forces busy in so many places that he's just looking for an opening now with his javelins to deal an extreme amount of damage to the defending positions. Look at this, though. There is some reinforcements down here that I think are going to be able to answer the javelin volleys of these Corsair Blackguard. There's some Royal Guard. Aren't really doing a whole lot right now, but I think we're going to see them spring into action in just a few moments. Oh, look at this. Look at the devastation over this gatehouse. These forces have now begun to fall apart. Mordor has moved some Temple Guard up onto the ramparts, beginning to put down a little bit of fire into this defending position. But these catapults, they're still really healthy. Still got 24 in there, so it's going to be a long time, I think, before the Mordor player can really chip away at this position significantly enough that he's going to be able to push through and silence that catapult. Down here, what remains of the Ironfoot Guard fighting hard against Temple Inquisitors and these Witchrealm Scourge Guard. But definitely Mordor and Gundabad have managed to push through here, albeit with heavy losses. Well, here these Corsair Blackguards now in a great position, looking to get themselves firing into these the massed ranks of the Arnor player. That could be absolutely devastating. So the defending forces really need to answer this threat here. Over here, it looks like, oh my goodness, looks like that would be the Rohan forces who have now fallen in combat. They were fighting over there above the gatehouse with the Arnorians. But now Rohan has lost the general. Very unfortunate. But Rohan has lost most of his army at this point. But Harad has now managed to get one of his siege towers up into this wall, so we could see some archers. I think these are actually an archer company that move up onto this wall and begin to put some pressure on the forces that you can see below here. Looks like the Kingdom of Arnor is going to answer the call and move themselves into this area and begin to contest the passage of the Haradrim troops onto the wall. Oh, look at this. Sylvan Elves now committing some of their elite forces, some of the Sindar Blade Masters moving in to try and cut down these Muhad tribesmen. This is not a unit to be underestimated, but there's just so many javelins. You can see what remains of these Corsair Blackguards, 25 of them. Now putting a lot of pressure on these Sindar Blade Masters. A very depleted unit of Forest Warden's going to move in there, try and silence them for the time being so the defenders can get more and more troops into the fray to deal with them. Oh, look at this. Some of the Sindar Blade Masters charging out the gatehouse into the front of these Corsair Blackguards. A ton of them going down in that charge. Von Mountain is going to be forced then to pull back this unit of Corsair Blackguard or lose them all entirely, which is going to leave the rear of these guys open to a really nice charge from the Sindar Blade Masters if they so choose. Oh, look at this. He's moving in some of his elite troops. The Naru Royal Guard. This is a fairly even fight between these two units, but the Sindar Blade Masters are definitely needed elsewhere. I can see the Forest Wardens now beginning to fall. Only about 3 of them left, and that's the only thing keeping these Corsair Blackguards from putting a ton of devastating, enfilading fire into this unit of Sindar Blade Masters. So the Sylvan Elves are going to have to move very quickly if they want to be able to avert that menace and silence those Blackguard once and for good. Over here, it would appear that Mordor and Good and Bad have now broken through and are beginning to engage the second layer of the Dwarven and Elven defense. These Blacklock Engineers getting themselves dragged into a melee, which is definitely not where they want to be. These Temple Inquisitors are going to chew these guys up. The Blacklock Engineers are definitely better suited, I think, to hiding back here and pelting these guys from afar. Those crossbows could do a lot of damage to the heavily armored Temple Inquisitors. It looks like Bobbington now sees the problem with his Blacklock Engineers, going to try and pull them back as quickly as possible. And as the Blackguard Engineers retreat, or the Blacklock Engineers retreat, the Haranek are now moving in to take their place and consolidate this defending line. Not going to be an easy fight from Mordor here on out. That catapult, oh wow, still looking to take down a huge number of Temple Guard. And look at the devastation that it has caused to these guys up here. There's just so many dead elite units, very unfortunate to see. Up here we got some Marshals of the Red, fighting hard against the Red Hour Berserkers. I don't think the Blackguard are going to be able to push through these guys very easily. The Marshals of the Red are no slouches, and they have a ton of damage, and it is, of course, all AP. Mordor now committing his Troll Reserves, looking to beat up this defending position, break through their lines easily. These guys are in Spear Wall formation, and they are not going to let those Trolls pass without a fight. The Trolls finding themselves unaccustomed, I would think, unaccustomedly unable to push through a formation very easily. So the Dwarven Catapult is going to remain online for a little while, because unfortunately these Trolls aren't going to be able to do their job, I think, in the way that the Mordor player wants them to. Oh wow, look at that. Oh, a huge number of these Temple Guard going down alongside the tower. So this avenue of attack now cut off for the attackers. Really a very even fight at this point. 54 to 51, a little bit in favor of the attackers. Out here, down here outside the walls, Sindar Blade Masters being very aggressive, fighting hard against these Corsair Blackguards, trying to silence as many of the Javelin units as possible from Von Mountain, but there's just so many of them, it's really difficult to do. This one unit of Sindar Blade Masters that were initially running in here to take on some of these remaining Blackguard and Muhad tribesmen, but instead they are going to opt to take on the much larger threat, which I think is this very healthy unit of Muhad tribesmen. Looks like Harad is now through the gate, so they now have another avenue of attack. They're no longer forced to fight in this one tiny choke point. These Sindar Blade Masters getting a nice piece of these Muhad tribesmen, taking down 7 or 8 of them. There's some supporting enfilading fire coming in from another unit of Muhads. These poor Sindar Blade Masters are just in such a bad position. Harad now moving in with some of his trollmen. Look at this. At the very least, maybe they'll take some of the javelins to the back, but these Sindar Blade Masters really not in a good spot. Yeah, I think we're going to find them very, very quickly wiped out now at this point. There's a smaller unit here of about 12 trying to rush through that Trollman formation, looking to take on those Muhad tribesmen. They are going to get in there and get a piece of them. Just a few of them, though, falling. There's this very understrength unit is not going to be able to do any significant damage to those Muhad tribesmen unless they are small enough to be overlooked by the Haradrim player. But yeah, Harad definitely managing to break through the defenses here. There's not a whole lot. Oh yeah, it's a little bit of a micro mistake on my part. Some of the Hiranek now abandoning their posts and leaving the rest of the Arnorians and the Dwarves to fend for themselves. But I quickly realized my mistake and began to pull back my spearmen and reform the line here alongside of my brothers. Oh my goodness. A little bit of, I think that was some friendly fire. Oh no, that's just one of the troll catapults now giving the defenders a taste of their own medicine. taking down some of the Dunedain bodyguard and the steel bowman. This is very unfortunate. We're now severely lacking in archers at this point, and we're going to need them, I think, much later in the battle, because Harad has yet to commit his very formidable companies of Abrazanim Nardubawi. Look at these guys. There's like 4 or 5 of them here, and they're very, very scary AP missiles. They still got a ton of javelins as well, so look out for Harad. Definitely, I think, one of the more dangerous players left on the battlefield at this point. But still, they are going to have to get through a very formidable defensive line. The Arthedain men-at-arms here alongside the dismounted Dunedain spearmen, backed up by a little bit of Elder Royal Guard. It's going to not be an easy fight, I think, for these very lightly armored Haradrim warriors. Up here, it looks like the Arthedain men-at-arms managed to push back whatever it was that Harad was bringing up here. I think that might have been some archers or possibly even some two-handed elite warriors. But they managed to be pushed back, so that offensive now has been blunted. Harad has to kind of fight through here and really kind of fight on the defender's terms, unless he manages to use his javelins very, very nicely to whittle down their forces. Now Arnor moving out here, being very aggressive with his Arthedain men-at-arms, getting into those Corsair Blackguards. Oh, a few of them falling in an initial javelin volley, but they are going to get in there, and those Corsair Blackguards, I think, are going to struggle a little bit against his very heavily armored infantrymen. But there are some Trollmen now moving in support of them, and this is going to be a huge flank. These Arthedain men-at-arms are going to fall apart. We've got some javelin fire coming in. They are a little bit shielded from it by the crest of this hill, but with those Trollmen now moving in to flank them. Although apparently no, these Trollmen now moving in to counter a menace that is being represented by these 2 units of Hiri Bang, now out of ammunition, charging into battle against these Trollmen of Harad, looking to tie down the Haradrim forces just a little bit longer, to give the defensive forces over here time to whittle down Mordor and the Gundabad player even further. But it just seems that there is no end to the tide of Numenorians and elite soldiers. There's just so many Temple Guard, so many Temple Inquisitors. Despite the fact that we have killed a lot of the Gundabad elites, Mordor is still looking to be in pretty good shape here. He's now got some of his Shadow Guard up on this rampart, using the battlements against the defenders, which is some really smart positional play. I love to see it. And yeah, now he's beginning to rain fiery death and destruction into the ranks of the Arnorians and the Sylvan Elves, who are putting up a very valiant, spirited defense here on the crest of this hill. Over here outside the gate, it looks like the defenders are going to get a little bit of reinforcements now. There's some Arthedain men-at-arms moving in to support these Hiri Bang. Really, I think that's a really important move on the part of the Kingdom of Arnor. We need to be very aggressive right now, because if we sit back and let Von Mountain to kind of do what he wants, in the late game, he's still got very healthy units of skirmishers. That's going to prove to be devastating for us when we move into the town square. We're going to be sitting ducks, so we need to move out and try and take down as many of the attackers as possible. But Recrius now moving in to defend his allies. Some really nice teamwork here. He's brought his Witchrealm Inquisitors into the backs of these Arthedain men-at-arms, who are absolutely falling apart in the face of these Trollmen of Harad, alongside the Witchrealm Blackguard. I think that might have been the Arnorian general who just fell now in combat against the forces of Mordor and Gundabad. Very unfortunate for the Arnor player. A lot of his units don't have the greatest morale, especially his rank and file, which he has quite a lot of, so they could start to rout en masse very soon, and I think that would be absolutely devastating for the defending lines. Out here, though, the attackers, or the defenders rather, who are attacking right now, they're not doing terribly bad. They have managed to stall Harad for quite a long time. They are now starting to take some fire from the Abrazanim Nardubawi, so what remains of these Arnorians are going to start to fall back inside. I think we took down, I think that would be the Haradrim general, or no, that would be Recrius' general. The Gundabad general has now fallen in combat against the Hiri Bang, alongside some of these Arthedain men-at-arms, but I think this engagement here is going to start to switch in favor of the attackers. They're now slowly beginning to beat back the Hiri Bang. We're now down to 14 in one unit, and I think even less in another. So really, facing these Trollmen of Harad is not an easy fight. The Arnorians now beginning to rout, and that's going to be the end of the defenders at this point. So the defenders see what is happening, see which way the wind is turning, and so everyone is now beginning to fall back what they can to the town center to make their final stand. But really, it is looking very grim for the defenders. There's quite a lot of artillery left, quite a lot of very elite units left, and the attackers have a lot of skirmishers still to come. So yeah, this is not going to be an easy fight for what remains of the defenders. They're going to have to be, I think, still very aggressive if they're going to have any hope of taking down the forces of evil. Although that being said, if you look at their defenses, they are quite formidable. There's a large number of Dunedain wardens who have been held in reserve, who hold the line for a very long time. They are 2 HP, reasonably well armored, and there's a lot of elite Elven units, I think, still to come. What remains of the Hero and Spear companies have managed to fall back here to the tune of about 1 full-strength unit, so there's about 60 or so in the town center now. But what we are severely lacking in is definitely our skirmishers. We've got 17 Blacklock Engineers, a unit of Royal Guard, a fairly healthy unit of Royal Guard alongside some Elder Royal Council, but that's not, I think, going to be enough to pose a significant menace to the huge amounts of skirmishers that are being commanded by the attackers. So let's go ahead. Let's fast forward just a little bit as the defenders get themselves into position and begin to set themselves up to receive the final push from the attackers. And there's a few. Oh, look at these poor Arnorians getting themselves stuck here. A fairly healthy unit of 29 pikemen that could be very useful on the on this defending line here, getting themselves stuck on the pathfinding, and now they're going to be overtaken. Looks like some of these Muhat tribesmen now moving in to outflank these guys, and I think that's going to be the end for those poor pikemen. This catapult unit, very, very isolated, stuck here behind enemy lines, trying to push through these few Muhat tribesmen. Harad now moving up with what remains of his army. Doesn't really have a whole lot of melee left. A lot of his Narnar Royal Guard have fallen in combat, I think, in various engagement outside the walls. But it looks like the catapult crew are going to be able to make it through. Be nice to. We really need every man to defend the town center at this point. Looks like some of these Ironfoot pikemen now moving in to cover their retreat against the Narnar Royal Guard. I don't know if there's a Dwarven catapult up here at all. There might be. There potentially might be. Actually, yes, there is. There is right here. Yeah, so the catapult crew actually managed to escape from the melee and have made it back to the town square where they very wisely, actually that's quite clever, where they have very wisely stored their siege weapons, and now they're going to be able to get those online and pose a serious threat to the attackers as they move into position. Again, some really nice positional play here. Von Mountain moving his Aberzani Nardu Balweep up into the walls alongside some of his units of Hashari Shadows. They're going to begin to bombard the interior of the town square. They don't really have to be very accurate. They are going to be shooting indirectly into the town square, but we are just so compact in the center here that it doesn't really matter. They're probably going to get somebody at some point and maybe get a few casualties along the way, which really we can't afford to have it at this point as the defenders. Look at this. Look at all these skirmishers now pouring in. Some of the Temple Guard alongside some Numenorian Shadow Guard, what remains, I think, of the Shadow Guard of both Gundabad and Mordor, moving themselves down here into position to begin to bombard the defending area. Look at this. This is the worst part. If it was just the archers, it might not be so bad, but the fact that they have so many artillery pieces now that they're moving into position to begin to poke holes in our lines, that is going to be, I think, the hardest thing for the defenders to deal with. Yeah, a lot of fire now going in there. It's really going to come down to how aggressive I think the defenders are at this point. When you're in this sort of position where you are outgunned, really all you can do is begin to move forward, and it looks like that is what Arnor is doing at this point. Moving forward with, oh wow, just the destruction, and this is why it's important to be this aggressive. They are going to have to just move forward. The archer companies and the catapults as well from the attackers are very overextended at this point. They are extremely vulnerable. Most of their infantry is still behind over here. A lot of the Temple Inquisitors are really not in a position to support the archers, neither are these trollmen really. So if the attackers, or the defenders rather, move forward and begin to harass these guys, they could catch the attackers on the back foot and deal a lot of damage to these archer companies, which is really their biggest advantage at this point. The defenders are definitely leading in terms of infantry, but the attackers have all of the range tools necessary to reduce that to 0. So if the defenders can get in here and destroy these guys very quickly, then I think they still have a chance at taking this battle. It looks like one of the troll catapults just assassinated one of their own. A little bit unfortunate for the attackers. You need to be careful with your positioning when you are firing these catapults, because they are stupid. I mean, they are trolls after all, and they will do some really stupid things, like blowing up their own units if you're not careful. Look at this, a massive general charge here from what remains of the defenders, now moving out alongside the dwarves, and Arnor moving out alongside the Sylvan Elves, looking to silence some of these Temple Guard. There's still a very, very formidable force of archers up on the walls, but the Sylvan Elves now in the process of silencing some of the Numenorian Rangers. Look at that, catapults at the same time firing out to support this charge, and a lot of these skirmishers are now going down in combat to this very sudden assault from the defending forces. Like these poor Numenorian Shadow Guard just getting absolutely gunned down. That's going to leave these these Elder Royal Council in a position now to move out and to try and support some of the infantry down here. Although, because of the loss of Arnor's general, a lot of this infantry formation is going to be very shaky. You can see a lot of routing going on here. A fairly healthy unit of 29 and 20 are 30 men-at-arms now fleeing for the hills. Oh, a devastating shot here from that mortar, or from the Gundamad catapult into those poor Chaldean Reclaimers. Are going to take a ton of damage. But they're now moving into to silence, I think, what remains of that unit. Oh, another shot going off, though, before they're able to get in there and get stuck in. If they're not careful, those Chaldean Reclaimers are going to start to rout, and that, I think, would be extremely devastating for the defenders, because they are starting to lose the infantry fight now a little bit. So, though, a fairly healthy unit of Dunedain Knights now moving in to take the position of the Arthurian men-at-arms who were fleeing just earlier. But there's still Trollmen to deal with. This is very desperate, I think, for both sides. Still fairly even, although definitely firmly in favor of the attackers, who are managing to whittle down this defending push with their missile superiority. You can see some of the Elder Royal Council getting themselves in a position. Look at this. They're going to rain down a little bit of death and destruction upon the attackers, turning the tables a little bit. Now they have a nice position, a nice little perch here to get some easy kills and support this infantry engagement. Look at this. Look at the devastation that has been caused here. Quite a lot of dead warriors, both at both choke points here. Just so much destruction that has taken place, especially at this eastern gate here. This is probably, I think, the most successful defending position, but it doesn't really seem like it was enough, because there's just still so many of the attackers left to deal with. Although, look at this. These Dunedain Knights actually are beginning to win the fight against the Shadow Guard and against these Trollmen, who are slowly beginning to be whittled down. I think a lot of that has to do with the Elder Guard up there, who are pouring fire into these Trollmen. The Trollmen do not have a lot of armor, and they are taking flanking fire, so they don't get their shield bonus. So that's, I think, a really nice position for those Elder Royal Council to be in, doing a lot of damage to these Trollmen. And if we can break through, because Mordor still has not mobilized his reserves yet. He's still got some Temple Guards and Temple Inquisitors, which are going to be a tough nut to crack, but we might be able to break through here. We might be able to open up a few lines and get into the back, which is basically undefended at this point. If we can have a breakthrough, then we will be able to, I think, destroy the skirmishing line, and thereby the advantage of the attacking forces. And it's not like we're running out of infantry either. Look at this. We're really a little bit afraid of their catapults for the most part, but there's still a lot of Dwarven infantry yet to come from Bobbington, and that's, yeah, look at this. Mithril Guard and Sons of the Fallen and Guards of Khazad-dûm. This is not a infantry force to take lightly. Another catapult shot getting a few members of the Abrazanim Nardubawi, but still not enough. Although they should be starting to be run out of ammunition soon. Starting to be running out of ammunition soon, I should say. And once that happens, I think they have to commit all these forces to an infantry fight. It's really going to be in favor of the dwarves. Even with all these Temple Inquisitors, those Dwarven infantry are not to be taken lightly. Another one of the catapults going down. A little bit of friendly fire here on the part of Recreus, taking down his ally Michael's catapult here, and that's really unfortunate, because they're slowly reducing their artillery superiority just by being a little bit careless and shooting each other in the back. That's a little bit unfortunate, I think, for the attacking players. But still, it doesn't really matter at this point. What remains of Arnor's army has now fallen in combat. Mostly, I think, due to the arrows up there. So many Shadow Guards, so many Hashari Shadows, and Abrazanim Nardubawi firing down into this defending mass here, and it's slowly but surely beginning to turn against the defenders, especially with the addition now of some of these Temple Inquisitors. These Khazad-dûm Reclaimers still trying to do their job, still firing their AP missiles at these guys. What remains of the Elder Royal Council now down here, I think they are out of ammunition, so they're trying to support this infantry engagement. There's just not enough of them left. And there goes the Elven General. Oh, wow. And his assailants now going down with him in a blaze of glory, as two very nice catapult hits impact that unit and tear the heart out of those poor Temple Inquisitors, who are now down to 13 and 22 in their two respective units. Oh, another massive hit there from the defending artillery. If this keeps up, they could really turn the infantry fight around. These Temple Inquisitors are very hard to take down in melee, and yeah, that is definitely the biggest advantage that the mortar player has at this point. But if he keeps losing them like that to the catapult fire, that's going to be very unfortunate. Another huge hit. Oh, and followed up by a second, taking down so many of those Temple Inquisitors and those Trollmen, who are now moving forward. This is, I think, a bit of a mistake on the part of the Dwarven player. He didn't have his infantry close at hand to be able to support the catapult line, so a lot of these artillery pieces now, who have done so much good for the defending players, are now going to go offline. because these what remains of the Temple Guard, the Trollmen, and the Temple Inquisitors are going to be able to get in there and start to silence them. And that Dwarven Catapult really down to just a few men. 4, 5, 6. Yeah, they're going to fall apart very quickly, and that Dwarven Catapult is going to go offline for good. The Kingdom of Arnor not really in a much of a better position with his catapult either, although the Dwarven player rushing up managed to get in here and sweep away this attacking push quick enough that the Arnor Catapult is going to stay online for a little bit longer. And of course, there is still a Sylvanov Catapult, but I'm having a little bit of struggles trying to get into position. I was mostly focusing on the archers up on the walls, but honestly, there's so many catapults here that it's hard to fire through them and not hit your friends. So maybe being a little bit too indecisive there and playing it a little bit too safe, and I think that's going to cost us a lot of kills in our catapult units. And we really need to silence the Catapult of Requiesce now. He's beginning to put a lot of fire into these attacking dwarves. The dwarves, I think, could take the day. There is enough of them left at this point. We have done enough damage to the Temple Inquisitors to really turn the infantry fight around. But this catapult here is in such a good position to just destroy the Dwarven infantry formation, which is very bunched up. That if we don't act quickly, then we will lose the initiative, and we will slowly begin to crumble here under the missile superiority of the attacking forces. Look at this. There's barely any Temple Inquisitors left. It looks like some of these Sons of the Fallen. I think this is a big mistake. Starting to fall back. Oh, there goes. I think this is the Herodrum General taking a huge hit to the face from that catapult. Those poor Narnar Royal Archers are really just easy prey for the catapult troops. But it's very even. The Arnor Catapult, now one of them going offline thanks to some accurate fire from the Catapult of the Orcs of Gundabad. But they've really done their job at this point. They've assassinated a huge number of troops, really turned the infantry fight around in favor of the defenders. But I don't know if it's going to be enough. They still have a lot of ammunition in those catapults and a lot of missiles. Looks like I've now moved my catapult into position. I'm going to start to lay down a little bit of fire, potentially into the Catapult of Requiesce, although I think I'm trying to target that Troll Catapult because they've now moved that up and is in a very vulnerable position. Oh no, unfortunately I missed the catapult entirely and just smoked this one unfortunate bannerman who's going to fall to the ground screaming on fire, and that's going to be the end of him. It's still very much in favor of the attackers, but they have numbers, whereas we have a ton of quality. Those Dwarven troops, even with low numbers, will be able to slaughter so many infantry units simply by outlasting them because they have massive armor values that permit them to do so. Yeah, Bobbington has now fallen back with what remains of his infantry to a better position where those catapults from the attackers are not able to reach his warriors. It looks like Mordor is now trying to move in to silence my catapult as well. I'm just trying to get it back online and begin to continuously fire down into these troops. If we can get a little bit of friendly fire there, but if we can get a nice shot down here, we may be able to side through a large number of the Aberzani Nardubawi, who are still very decent infantry when they run out of ammunition. Oh, look at that friendly fire. Oh, that is so unfortunate. But we would also be able to silence one of the catapults, which I think is the biggest thing at this point. If we can silence the catapult and take down some more of their infantry, I think that potentially we can push through and destroy what remains of the Herodrum and Mordor forces. We're going to go ahead and we're going to speed it up just a little bit here because we're down to just the final stages of the battle. This is really do or die for the defenders. They need to push forward with... oh, look at that. Mordor's general now going down. I think that is the end of his Nazgul unit as well. But the dwarves are going to have a mighty push down this hill, begin to push forward and break this formation. Very, very thin formation. The dwarves have a very high mass, so they can do this quite easily. But they are managing to push through what remains of Mordor's warriors, and they're going to be able to get down here and get down into these catapults, which is going to be really important. These catapults are going to start to wind up for another attack very soon, so they need to get down there. They need to just push through and get close enough that they'll be able to get underneath the catapult's effective range of fire. And at the very least, if they are going to take a volley to the face, they'll be able to take down some of these Aberzani Nardubawi with them as well. You can see Bobbington really just trying to push through. Oh, that's such a devastating volley. It takes down some of the Temple Inquisitors as well, which makes the dwarves' lives a little bit easier. Oh, but it takes down some very valuable Dwarven warriors. That's not what you want to have happen at this late point in the battle. Looks like Von Mountain looking to do a little bit of a sneaky cap here, moving up 5 of his units. Of course, are Blackguards. They're now moving into the town square and putting a lot of pressure on the Dwarven player. He can either move forward and turn his back to these archers and to this catapult, or yeah, he can move backwards and turn his back to the archers and the catapult, or he can just continuously move forward and try to push through these Aberzani and hopefully maybe deal with most of these Mordor forces here and then turn around and hopefully have enough time to push the Blackguard out of the center before it's too late. We're going to turn it up to about 6 times now. See these dwarves now pushing through these Aberzanim, having no problem whatsoever at slaughtering these units. The Aberzanim are not slouches in melee, as I said earlier, but the dwarves are just so powerful that there's really nothing that the mortar player can do at this point, or the mortar or Herod player can do at this point to stop them. He just has to grind them down and hope that his AP missiles are going to be enough to destroy them. I think the Troll Catapult is now out of ammunition, and they have they moved themselves in position to try and support what remains of the Herodrim's infantry, but they're just having a really hard time against these extremely elite Dwarven warriors. We're just pushing down this flank, pushing through the Royal Guard formation, and dealing a lot of damage. And you can see a lot of the Royal Guard now beginning to fall in combat against these very formidable Dwarven warriors. Yeah, these Sons of the Fallen, and these Balin/Mithril's Guard are not an easy unit to take down with missiles. You want to be able to take them down with artillery, but fortunately for the defenders, they have managed to silence the artillery, so the dwarves definitely have retaken the advantage. Looks like the Blackguard have moved out of the town center. I think Von Mountain was doing that because he didn't want to end the game on a point cap, which, you know, that's fair enough. It's a little bit anticlimactic. So Von Mountain being a really good sport. Yeah, Mortar now just trying to surround the dwarves. They've pushed down a little bit too far and lost their hill advantage, which I think is going to slowly begin to push against them, especially as they're taking some flanking fire now from the Numenorian Shadow Guard and the Aberzanim Nardubawi up there on the battlements. The dwarves pushing through, looking to get into the Hashari Shadows, looking to break up that formation using their high mass. But I think it's going to start to push against them a little bit here, because the Hashari Shadows have a lot of numbers, and they're now being reinforced by some Shadow Guard from the walls. And looks like some of the Aberzanim Nardubawi are now moving off of the battlements to come and surround what remains of the Dwarven forces, which is a really, really good decision, because the dwarves have managed to kind of push through this flank, and they will be able to surround this Numenorian Shadow Guard alongside the Hashari Shadows. And if they do that, they will be able to destroy them. Although I don't think that they're going to have enough numbers at this point. The Mithril Guard now down to 11, and the Sons of the Fallen, I think, are down to a similar number as well. Yeah, it's a mere 8 warriors left. There's really like 20 or so Dwarven warriors left to defend this fortress from Mordor and the Herodrim. Let's go ahead and let's fast forward just a little bit here. It's going to be a mighty final stand on the part of the dwarves. Yeah, Von Mountain just moving in and out of the town center with his Questor Blackguard, not really deciding what he wants to do. I mean, if things start to turn in favor of the dwarves simply because of how powerful they are in melee and how difficult they are to slay by non-artillery troops, then he may just take the town center. But we'll see what happens. Yeah, the dwarves they're really not doing too terribly. They are surrounded at this point, and the dwarves are the only player with their general left. So look at this; they're very sexy-looking general with that beautiful red mohawk, fighting hard against Aberzanim Nardubawi and the Numenorian Shadow Guard. Still managing to get some kills too, which is very impressive for a unit that is surrounded like this. Oh man, these poor Mordor forces really don't have an answer to the heavily armored dwarves. They're slowly beginning to grind down the Mithril Guard, but this general is just still standing strong, really not able to be shut down. He is getting attacked on all sides, but he's getting the occasional hit in as well, which is really impressive. Look at this guy. Just refuses to go down. He's going to fight hard for Durin and the Lonely Mountain right to the very end.
If we do not regain command of the
Well, it looks like this might be the end. I think there's some more Questor Black. Oh, look at this. There's one catapult crewman who managed to survive the charge of the Royal Lords, who is up here now in this town center, looking to take it for himself. The Herodrim do need a new general, so he could be the new Herodrim king. Who knows? And it looks like Von Mountain just having a little bit of fun, moving that troop out of the town center at the very last moment. We're going to put on 6 times now. Slowly but surely the dwarves are being ground down, so I think this is definitely going to go in favor of the attackers, but I think the defenders did a really great job kind of pulling the percentages back, especially at the end there. They didn't really have a lot of choice. Their back was definitely to the wall, so they had to push out of that town square and fight the Mordor forces in man-to-man, but they did a really great job, took advantage of the overextension of the attacking forces, who kind of got their archers a little bit caught out, except for the archers who were up on the wall, but they did a great job at taking them down. Look at this. Look at the dead. There's a lot of Mordor skirmishers that fell in combat here. A lot of Aberzanim Nardubawi, a lot of Shadow Guard, and some Shadow Guards up here on the walls that fell in battle against the Elder Royal Council. There we go. We're going to fast forward it now, right to the very end. I think there's just look at this. This is the only Dwarven unit that is left at this point. It is the General, and he's fighting hard, and he's got about 50 seconds left to survive. Let's see if he manages to survive the battle and be taken prisoner by the Mordor forces, although I don't know. Maybe death in combat is a little bit better than that.
If we do not regain command of the
Yeah, slowly but surely the clock is ticking down. This guy's still fighting hard. He still believes that he can do it. He's merely shaken. He's thinking to himself, well, I might be in a little bit of trouble, but I think I can still do this. Look at them. There's just nothing that they can do. Even a troll is not able to batter through the very formidable defenses of this Dwarven Lord. And there you have it. The end of the battle. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was a little bit unfortunate that Starling crashed out, but it still managed to be an epic siege right down to the very end. The attackers, I think, did a really good job in compensating for their lack of numbers with some really nice tactics and some really nice management of their reserves. The defenders, of course, they were very aggressive. A few micro mistakes, I think, really cost them some very important units that would have been definitely useful in that town center. Those 2 units of Dunedain Rangers alongside a unit of Elder Palace Guard really could have turned this battle around. But, you know, that's how it is. Sometimes unfortunate things happen in combat. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll be seeing you later. There's going to be another silly video coming up next, and I'm going to try and get another replay out today as well, because unfortunately we weren't able to do one yesterday just because, you know, sometimes you need to take a break. But anyway, I'll see you guys later. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.